medallion. Okay, I got this. I spoke my hands. Sorry. Thank you, Milton. I surprised myself as I accepted without hesitation this challenge from Milton when he asked me to speak from my perspective of a mother living a nightmare. I lost my beloved son, Christopher, on March 16th of this year from a heroin overdose. He was 26. I'm sorry. As much as it goes without saying, I have to emphasize that this journey of both his addiction and his death has plunged me into the depths of dark despair.
Sorry.
Clawing your way out of such a deep black hole is no easy feat. I'm still digging. It's difficult to be strong and sturdy when life itself is so fragile. So to have envisioned myself standing here before you all tonight to share and bear my heart and soul is nothing short of a surprise to me. But this quote that I read ignited me. Determination is the wake-up call to the human will. At that moment, my determination to represent Christopher's loving heart and honor his memory and preserve his dignity flooded over me. This disease of addiction has numerous facets. Society can cast a shadow over an already dark situation. Astounding as it seems, thank you, it happens. I don't claim to have solutions, but I do believe the search begins with humanity. We need to better educate ourselves to reduce ignorance. Most of us are aware of how contradictory rules, regulations, and laws can be at times, and the frustration the holes in the system can create. There'll always be the more fortunate families who are more resourceful and have stable finances and medical coverage to reach out for necessary help. But there are many that do not have the support, morally or financially. Nobody should be shamed and left to hide, feeling nowhere to go, not accepted or worthy of a healthy lifestyle. Not fair for anyone to feel that sense of hopelessness. All forms of addiction can create havoc, not just for the addict, but the caregivers, family members. They suffer this disease along with them. This horrifying evil drug called heroin is claiming lives needlessly in staggering numbers. Currently, the heroin being sold contains fentanyl and other substances that make survival very low. As with any epidemic that sweeps the nation, it must be stopped. It's hard not to feel, as it's human to do so, that this doesn't affect me or my loved ones. I know I was there once. Never ever could I have imagined Christopher even contemplating experimenting with this drug. See, when we reduce anything down, we're all the same. We are born and one day we'll die. But what occurs between that time is where we differ from one another. Some will be born with handicaps we can visually see and socially accept. And there are many of us who have hidden disorders, either passed down from DNA or just more susceptible to negative internal or social influences. Unfortunately, the latter causes people to behave according to where they feel most accepted, whether that's good or bad. So when they take the wrong turn in the proverbial fork in the road, society will label them. They chose this. Why should my tax dollars go to them? They are losers. If it were that simple, I wouldn't be standing here right now. The behavior and actions of an addict will warrant these assumptions. This is where education and awareness are vital. Because family members, more often the mother, are labeled as well. We must have gone wrong somewhere. I always say the word mother and enabler are synonymous. I admittedly, in the beginning, was in denial of the severity of the consequences of simplifying recovery. I was mortified and ashamed for people to know Christopher's addiction and his illegal activities, his stealing from the very people he loved and cherished. Yes, this drug gets first priority over anything meaningful, valuable, or moral in the addict's life, basically stripping them to a shell of who they once were. The humility goes on and on. I'll spare you further sparing details, but shame forces us to hide, and hiding only intensifies the raging fire. It may not hit close to your home, and you hear it over and over on the news, and you feel bad for the moment and then carry on. Not quite desensitized, but dangerously close. Suffice it to say, because it did hit close to my home and took my son's future, I'm driven to advocate for this cause. It is my hope to drive you, without having to experience the ruins, but to see it for what it is, and how it's destroying a large portion of this generation. When this goes on being ignored and people are bullied and socially unaccepted, we end up being divided solely by ignorance. We need to open our eyes and our hearts and be mindful of sensitive situations as they are more than what they appear from the outside looking in. Fear reaps confusion and anger, as we all know. We just experienced it during the campaigning and election of our country's new leader. This just proves the relevancy of our vulnerability. It can never be underestimated. Look at how the protests have evolved into some pretty despicable expressions of hate and prejudice. So sad how it divides us. We teach our children to be polite, respectful, and helpful, and then they witness rude, one-sided attitudes all around them. We teach them to accept people who are different than themselves and be generous in giving to those who may not be as privileged. Then they hear harsh judgments being tossed around like a free-for-all. People are entitled to their opinions. Just please let them research and think it out before you hurt unnecessarily. Because deep down inside, most of us want peace, understanding, and unity. We need to rebuild trust in our fellow man, our leaders. Slow down, listen, actually hear what's going on and what you can contribute to better our society. Our children and our grandchildren and so on deserve a healthy world to live in. We need to provide them with examples of what's required to keep it healthy and beautiful environment. Anything that society can contribute, be it the reach of a hand, compassion without judgment, is a beginning to strengthening the fight against addiction and mental health and its stigma and life-threatening effects. Not one of us is above the catastrophic situation that looms around every corner. We need to collaborate and denounce this disease. I cannot help but constantly go over in my mind what I could have done differently to save my son. But now I can only hope and pray that putting mine and Christopher's experiences out there could possibly save another. How beautiful to think that even though I can never see, hear, smell, hug, kiss, laugh, and cry with, or watch live life to its fullest, Christopher is creating light to shine on hope and love. Really, how beautiful is that? I'm so proud to be Christopher's mom. Also to his brothers, Sean, 24, and Adam, 14, who I consider to be so very brave, and my loving, ever so supportive husband, Mark. We all strive to win this battle, and our loss is indescribable. We now have to learn to live life in a different way. Death occurs every day. Never lose respect for the intensity of the sorrow that it leaves in its path. Allow it to remind you that death is one of the reasons we love so deeply. Let it remind you of just how short of a time we have to do the right thing. I just want to thank you all so much. I'm sorry I could have done this a little bit more steady. I just have